All right, I wanted to talk real quick about some of the guerrilla tactics, kind of expanding from the last YouTube video of the Viet Cong and even the North Vietnamese Army to some extent. So we're going to look at that. I'll have a couple links again, just like I did in the last video down in the comment section. So make sure you take a look at those. Okay, so traps were a big thing, especially for the Viet Cong. So if you look in the upper left, there's a picture of the steel arrow trap, which is basically like standing on the end of a rake, right? And it comes up and hits you in the face or whatever. Except this would be about mid-high, right on an individual. Higher for me since I'm so short. But at the end would be a steel arrow. And when you stepped on the trap, right, it would come up and puncture you in the leg or the stomach or wherever. Pretty nasty, pretty simple though, right? When again, technology is our advantage. Guerrilla tactics and these kind of things are the advantage of the Viet Cong and the Vietnamese. And then down below, you see a landmine in the upper right, primitive one, is this bamboo trap. So real picture and then kind of an animation here. This would all be covered, right? A big hole would be dug. We'd have bamboo crossed as a checkerboard almost. And then the top would have debris on it to make it look like it was just part of the trail. And when someone stepped on it, as you can see, they'd fall in, and down below on both of these are these sharpened bamboo spikes, often smeared with fecal matter. So when you fell in, if the spike didn't kill you, you'd get some bad bacterial infection, which in turn could kill you, right? Again, super primitive though, super effective. Okay, and then the psychological stress, right? You don't really know who your enemy is. You don't know where they are. And now every step you take out in the jungle, you have to worry about stepping on a booby trap, right? And there's tripwires and other things. These are just a few of them. And again, some of the videos in the comment section will have other examples of traps that they would set. Hey, and so really, it's going to have a really detrimental impact on American troops. You can see my kid playing Little Tykes basketball in the background. The psychological stress would cause things to happen, right? American troops were captured and tortured, and then in return, as you can see by this picture here, almost like a waterboarding tactic, the Americans would capture Vietnamese and torture them. It's just to simulate drowning in this picture, right? But again, what gets covered? I mean, the Vietnamese aren't covering this and publishing it of the torture they're doing, but the stuff that's happening with Americans torturing Vietnamese is getting covered. And that's changing the perception of the American public back home, not only maybe more anti-war, but also turning it against some of these Vietnam vets, right? That everyone's involved in these kind of acts. And again, we're not trying to explain away or excuse it, why it happened, but trying to understand why American soldiers did these kinds of things and often snapped. And again, it's the high stress situation they're in. A lot of times, some of them would even turn to drugs and alcohol, right, to cope while they're in Vietnam and when they return. Again, if we would have had the chance to watch Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan is that character, right, who turns to alcohol when he returns to the States to kind of cope with the things he saw and did in Vietnam. And then last, and I kind of hinted at these, what's the result for American soldiers? Well, psychological stress, right, for sure, constant stress, and often psychological breakdown, right, where they're torturing civilians, torturing prisoners. There's examples of ear necklaces, which are exactly what it sounds like, right? Your victims, you cut their ears off, put them on a necklace or a rope, and kind of wear it as a souvenir. Okay, and then ultimately, and maybe the saddest part of all of this is how Vietnam vets are treated when they return. And I've talked to a number of Vietnam vets. The guy used to come and talk to class, talked about how none of the friends he had now as a 60-year-old were made before Vietnam. Those were all post-Vietnam friends. Many of his friends and his family wouldn't even talk to him when he got back from Vietnam. Yeah, he did talk about how he was called a baby killer specifically. And so Vietnam vets treated horribly when they return. Most of them drafted, right? Didn't ask to go fight. The country asked them to go fight. And so hopefully we've learned from that. I think now in terms of Iraq veterans, war on terror veterans, we do a better job of supporting the troops, even if people disagree with the cause of the war. Check out the things in the bottom. Till next time. Have a good day. Stay safe. Hopefully, I'll get to see you soon.